Today will be a little different. We will read chapter 9 and 10 since 10 is only one paragraph. Esther, the last two chapters. Now, in the 12th month, that is the month of Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's commandment and his decree drew near to be put in execution, in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it turned out to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them and hated them, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell on all the people. And all the rulers of the provinces, and the lieutenants, and the deputies, and officers of the king helped the Jews, because the fear of Mordecai fell on them. For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout the provinces. For this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan the palace the Jews slew and destroyed 500 men, and Parshandatha, and Dalphon, and Aspatha, and Poratha, and Adalia, and Aridatha, and Parmashtha, and Arisathai, and Aridai, and Vajesatha. The 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hammedatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand. On that day the number of those who were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king, and the king said unto Esther the queen, The Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman, what have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee? Or is thy request further, and it shall be done? Then Esther said, If it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according to this day's decree, and let Haman's sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it to be so done. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hands. But other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together, and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000, but they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month of Adar, and on the 14th day of the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were at Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th thereof, and on the 15th day of the same they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month of Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. And Mordecai wrote these things, and sent letters unto all the Jews that they were on all the provinces of King Ahasuerus, both high and far, to establish this amongst them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded letters that his wicked device, which he had devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his son should be hanged from the gallows. Wherefore they call these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning the matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained, and looked upon them, and upon the seed, and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fall, that they would keep those 2 days according to their writing, according to the appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, that these days of Purim should not fall from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Behal, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote all the authority to confirm the second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus, with the words of peace and truth, to confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jew and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they decreed for themselves and for their seed, the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed that these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. And the king Ahasuerus laid a tribute upon the land and upon the isles of the sea. And all the acts of his power and of his might, and the declaration of the greatness of Mordecai, whereunto the king advanced him, are they not written in the books of the chronicles of the kings of Media and Persia? For Mordecai the Jew was next unto the king Ahasuerus, and great amongst the Jews, and accepted the multitude of his brethren, seeking the wealth of his people, and speaking peace to all his seed. And to let you know, Purim is still celebrated to this day. Look it up in your calendar. It is still acknowledged to this day.